The football team remains on the road this Saturday, playing Purdue in West Lafayette. The game will start at 11 a.m. Central Time, be televised by ESPNU. Head coach Gary Andersen is here. We'll have some opening comments, then take questions.
Okay, a couple things off last week's game I think are important. Haven't talked a lot about Darius Hillary this year because he kind of, when the corner plays very, very well, there's a lot of times not a lot of people don't see the production or see what he's doing. He's played fantastic. He's very good in his man skills. He's very good in his own skills. He showed last week he's a physical tackler at times, and I just think he needs to be thrown out there as a very, very big part of this defense that has become fairly successful in the last few weeks of what they've been doing, and his work ethic and everything else is what we're all about as a football team on and off the field. So that's starters there for you. And excited about the opportunity to get out and compete. It was a big game last week. We're obviously able to win on the road and ready to get back to work. Purdue is a offensive football team that causes you a lot of problems, and they've got two very fast running backs, as fast as running backs as we've played all year long. As far as sheer speed, I would bet the fastest when you win the whatever it is, the 200 and the 100 in the Big Ten. I don't know that much about track, but I know that's really fast when you win a race like that. So, and it shows up on film. Both those young men are very good football players and very, very fast. It's an offense that's changed from a year ago. They're much more wide open. Their plan is to obviously spread the field both ways on you, from sideline to sideline and from end zone to end zone. And they've done a nice job of creating big plays. There's a lot of defenses in this league that I've learned to truly respect from their coach's standpoint and players and their scheme over the last couple years, and one of those would be Minnesota, and the other one would definitely be Michigan State. It's not taken away from the other teams in this conference's defenses at all, but I see those guys play, and they're very good, and Purdue played very well offensively against both those teams. So we'll have our work cut out for us without question. And on the offense, as far as their defense goes, I love watching the two defensive ends play. They're very good pass rushers. They get up the field. They cause havoc in the run game. And those guys are as good a tandem as I've seen this year also. So if you throw on the tape, I think you would all agree with me in those statements. So defensively, they're going to be aggressive. I'm sure they're going to stack the box and plan on playing a physical brand of football, which I think it's a single-digit couple defensive linemen in there. I forget the kids' names. I apologize. I don't have them, but they got some big kids in the defensive line that are very stout and hard to move. So there'll be a good challenge on both sides of the football. We're going on the road again and excited about it.
Jason?
Coach, do you have any update on Alex Erickson's health?
Yeah, fully expected to play. Be ready to go.
Jesse?
Gary, you've got a defense right now that ranks number 1 in the country in total defense. Obviously, Dave Aranda has a lot to do with that. Mm-hmm. What is it about Dave that has made him excel seemingly wherever he goes?
Well, I think the first thing is anytime a coach is successful, he's got some good players with him that buy into his system and the beliefs of what the defense is trying to get done as a whole. Without that, you have zero chance as a coach. I don't care where you're at or who you're coaching. So he's got some very talented young men who care. Number 2, there is a plan. The plan is in place. The plan is flexible, but the core of the plan always stays together on the defensive side of the football. It starts with fundamentals. It starts with stopping the run, and it moves to causing issues with the quarterback as he continues to move through a game that you want to get him off track. And Dave has a very, very good mind. Let's not forget the rest of the guys in that room that are there with him. Coach Chad, Bill, do a tremendous job. Ben Strickland does a tremendous job, and those guys as a core defensive unit. This year I've spent a lot of time sitting in those meeting rooms with those guys, and I really haven't done that since I've been with Dave. I took my last year at Utah State and decided to spend much more time on the offensive side of the ball for meetings, and he handled that situation very well as far as the defense there. And last year was not in there hardly at all again. It's handled very well, but it's fun to be over there this year and see how they kind of go about things. And Dave's a very good football coach. He's got some very good football coaches with him. And like I said, some very talented players. And that's a recipe for success as long as you stick with your plan, which he does.
Jeff?
Gary, along the lines of the defense, you just talked about Hillary. You've talked about Caputo's value,
Yep.
Trotter at times. But before the game, Kyle Flood from Rutgers was talking about he was asked about your defense. He said it's an 11-man defense.
Yep.
He didn't single anybody out because he thought the strength of it was that all 11 guys on the field at a given time are doing their job. How important is that, even if you have some playmakers at end, at linebacker, whatever, for everyone to carry out their responsibility?
It's unbelievably important, especially with all the spread. And this is going to be a great example this week. These guys force you to play 11-man defense. And that would be another one of the strengths if I sat back and I just said how Dave goes about teaching and, how he goes about implementing a game plan. The young men understand where their fits are. And as they've gone through their time here with, approaching 2 years here, pretty quick, they've been able to understand what the system is. And there's ideas that go into it. There's terminology. There's a language that I always use that word with defense. I think it's so important that they speak the same language. And then you can get 11 guys on the same page. And it doesn't have to necessarily be 11 NFL players at this level to be a very good defense, but it does have to be 11, good football players or however many kids are running through. And then the other thing that I think is important is the packages that we run. It allows young men to get, even if they're a young player and they're getting, 7 reps a game or they're getting 10 reps a game and they're in a package, it allows them to have tremendous pride in their defense and know that their number can be called at any moment. They're just not going to be guaranteed to sit there and watch the whole game. And that's another, big part of our defense as we move forward. And I think Dave has done a good job of using that also.
Tammy?
In talking to Landish and Marcus Trotter and Vince Beagle, those guys talk a lot about playing for each other and playing for Coach Aranda. Do you sense a greater chemistry on this defense that maybe your squad had a year ago? Is that something?
No, I wouldn't compare them. As far as that goes, in a positive way or a negative way to a year ago, I think the kids last year had a great chemistry. They, amongst themselves, they were senior laden. They accepted us, and I've said that many times, and I'm always going to be very, very appreciative for those kids for that opportunity that they gave us to walk in and, quite frankly, change a lot of things on the defensive side of the ball when they've had some success. So they handled it well. This year, just this whole team, I think, is like that. What you explained, their ability and their care factor to, number one, they like each other, and that's not just on the offense or defense or special teams. If you walk through the locker room after practice and spend 5 minutes with them, they all love each other. No, that's a fallacy. 105 guys aren't going to love 105 guys, but they like each other. They respect and care for them. They care for themselves, and they care for the other kids on their team. They try to do things the right way, but that it's been very apparent on this team that they do care about each other, and that is one of the reasons why I always say they're so fun to coach, because they're a good group of kids.
Andy?
Gary, in your opening statement, you said that your defense is fairly successful at this point in time. Are you a little kind of underselling it a little bit?
Well, we still got a long ways to go in the regular season, so I'm going to stick right there. So stats are stats and facts are facts, and to me the facts are at the end of when it's all said and done and the helmets are back in the locker room for the year. That's when you're going to sit back and be judged how good you were on offense, defense, or special teams, and quite frankly by wins and losses. So they've played well. They've done some tremendous things. I'm proud of them. We're sitting in a great spot. What they've done to this point is continue to get better, but they're going to be judged as we all are on what performance our last performance, not really one that's ahead of us. So we'll see. But I think they have the same little edge about them too. They're not going to sit there and look and say, "Oh, we're number one at this, we're number two at that." So they pride themselves on being good at defense, but they would trust me. They would. To get a win this week against Purdue, and if that meant that they won by 1 point and the other team scored a bunch of points and their offense scored one more, they'd be happy with that.
Jesse?
Corey was named the conference's Offensive Player of the Week today. I know you've said his preparation hasn't changed, his mindset the whole season, but the last 3 games he's averaging close to 130 yards a game. Is it just a matter of getting more carries, feeling more comfortable? What do you attribute that?
Probably all the above. I think the young man's growing up, and he's having those opportunities, and Corey's explosive. I think the more you play, the better you get at anything, and his angles were very good in this last game. Watching a young man like Melvin Gordon play, I'm sure doesn't hurt him at all when he sees the angles that Melvin takes when he gets to the second level. It's very good. Corey showed in this last game that he took a tremendous angle for the long run, that he had the stiff arm on, and he took a nice angle, and the young man took a nice angle too, but Corey was able to get his arm out there and get the stiff arm to have him bounce off, and he's a strong physical running back. But Corey, I had an opportunity to ride on the plane next to him this last trip, and it was once I got him off, taking pictures and Snapchatting and things, and the plane took off. It was fun to sit next to him and listen to him, just kind of how important the game was to go back home and how things are, and you get to sit with the kid for an hour and a half or 2 hours. It's a good time, and he's in a good spot, but he is driven. Not in just that game, he's driven to be a great running back. That's very obviously. I knew that before, but you learn a little more when you spend an hour and a half with somebody.
Jeff.
Gary, most head coaches don't like to worry about kickers. They hate talking about kickers, but I'm just curious about Rafael. I think he made his first one, missed one, made 4 in a row, missed 2, made 5 in a row. Does he have some mental toughness to him in addition to having a strong leg? Because those conditions Saturday weren't exactly ideal.
Yeah, he is very mentally tough, I would say, for a true freshman to walk in an environment that he's had, and quite frankly, my biggest concerns with Rafael is keeping him grounded. He's kind of a whatever. I mean, he walks on the field and people want to cheer for him. So I want to make sure that he realizes that he might have been a little bit of a teacher's pet or something early on, but he better keep performing to keep his edge and let him understand where he's going. But he is tough. We put him in tough situations. I think I've got him in some spots to where we've allowed him to help him grow through decision-making processes in his life from first when he got here. But he's proved to me that he wants to go out and compete at a high level. He's proven to his teammates that he can go out and make big kicks. It hasn't always gone his way, and he's bounced back. So he's, for a freshman in the position that he is, I feel very good about the position as far as the place kicker as we move forward throughout the years.
Brian.
Gary, back to Corey Clement. He had mentioned recently that he watches Melvin play and wishes he could do some things that Melvin does. Does Corey do things that Melvin can't?
I don't know. Off the top of my head, I'd probably say no, but Melvin's pretty special. Corey I'm sure he'll hear that, and then he'll come and have something that he does better. But at this point, I think Melvin does a lot of things very, very well. So does Corey, and it's great that Corey can look at that and say, "This is a great player. I can learn from that great player." A year ago, I will guarantee you that Melvin Gordon was watching James, and he was working to get better at some of the things that James did that Melvin thought James did better than he was doing at that point.
Zach.
Gary, you talked about Alex Erickson. You say he's going to be fully you expect him to go, I guess, against Purdue. Do you anticipate him or Melvin, for that matter, missing any practice time this week with the injuries that they are dealing with?
No. Alex may jump back into things tomorrow. I would expect him to be there. Today we don't do much, so it's kind of a glorified walkthrough, if you will, today. I don't know the time frame on that, honestly, on Alex. I just expect him to play, and if we were going to play a game tonight at 6 o'clock, Melvin would be full steam ahead, ready to go with no problems.
Jesse.
Gary, I was just wondering if you had a chance to catch any of Chris Borland's 18-tackle game yesterday, and if so, what you thought of that.
I didn't. First I heard of it, actually, so I didn't know that he had a game like that, but that's terrific to see. And didn't catch any NFL games yesterday, so I missed that one, but I'll text him and let him know that we're proud of him as always. Maybe he should come to games more often, huh? It helped him.
Jim.
There are a lot of moving pieces with special teams. At the end of the day, how do you judge that unit? Are there statistical categories that you value more than others?
Yeah, there is. The ability to, number one, sustain and get possession of the football, and that's not really it's easy. It's an easy thing to say. That's the end result is when you want to get the ball, and you got to get the ball back in the best position that you can possibly get it back. That's key. And then you want to put themselves when you kick the ball. You want to do your best to make sure that you just do just the opposite of that. But I judge the special teams as a whole, and the plan to win and play great special teams. They're definitely just judged as a whole. Last week we did play great special teams, and as I look back and I say, did they change the game in our favor? Ultimately, that's what we ask ourselves as a special teams unit every single week. And, they absolutely did this last game with the field goals, and the block punt was a huge momentum changer. And we were solid and consistent in all the other areas. But I've never been, Coach Bush and Coach Jeniker, I'm sure on their own little areas, they've got, this is what we need to do on punt return to do it, and kickoff we want this, and kickoff return. But from a head coaching standpoint, much as you do as an offense or a defense, did they give us an opportunity to help us win the game the way they needed to? And surely they can't be a detriment or an anchor to the whole team. If you win 2 or 3 of offense, defense, special teams every week, you're going to be a really, really good football team and potentially a great team.
Andy?
Gary, a couple of follow-ups regarding your travel plans sitting next to Corey. Was that random that you sat next to him going back home? And what did you learn that you didn't know about him?
Just completely random. I try to, all the seniors go up front. You guys know that. We've done that for a long time. And then all the big guys try to give them exit aisles. The plane that Nyborg bought a year ago was a little small, so I let Zach know what I thought about that. So we were kind of crammed in there a little bit and packed in there. But it was just, Corey just happened to be there, and just seeing how his family was, talking to him about from what you learn when you get into a home. I get one visit in the home, and other than that, I get to see him when the parents come and visit very quickly, or his family. He's got a lot of people that are very important to him. But I like where Corey is. I like where he is off the football field. I like where he is academically. You can listen to him talk about his classes. He knows what he's talking about. His direction in life seems to be very clear and focused as far as what he's doing socially, and he's enjoying himself, and he has bright eyes, and he looks you in the eye when he talks about those things. So, football wasn't really even discussed in those situations. So it was, he tried to show me how to do a few things on the new iPhone that I have to use now. So, but I'm not any better at that. So I'm not very coachable, I guess, in those situations.
Jack?
Gary, end of the first half against Rutgers, the sequence, I think Corey picked up a first down, and then it looked like you guys weren't rushing anything. Were you willing to settle for a field goal there? I think you tried to pop Corey on a run the next time, and it got stopped, and you called timeout.
In the start of the end of the second quarter.
End of the first half. Because I know there was a lot of time burned after the first down run. Were you just saying, let's not worry about it, or were you pressing? What happened there?
Once we got it, I felt good about it. I didn't want to get us in a panic situation. We could have spiked it, I suppose, and given ourselves the opportunity to run 2 plays instead of just one more. But I felt like I didn't really want to get on the headphones at that point and, number one, tell Andy what to do. I didn't think I needed to do that with Andy Ludwig. I really don't. And number 2, I didn't want to really take 2 shots at throwing the ball at that moment in the end zone with that score. I just felt like getting 3 more would be fantastic. So, you pop a run, you get it. Then it got down to 10 seconds, and that's it. Now you all of a sudden no timeouts, 10 seconds left, procedure, half's over. You got major issues on your hands, and so that's why we decided to kick it with 10 left.
Zach?
Gary, I know the injury to Alex isn't a positive thing, but it allowed certainly George and Reggie and Krenwick and Natchell more experience in that game, and it seemed like George actually really made some nice plays for you guys.
Yep, it was good to see those young men get in. Just the most important thing is George's ability to catch the ball was fantastic, make a couple plays, very important. Same thing with Krenwick, very important, be able to make a play. Just, again, the reps are invaluable for them to get in there and not just catch it, but to block it, get lined up, understand where they're going. Know that you can't look over to the sidelines and, coach is going to tell me to line 2 yards inside the hash and da-da-da-da, because there's a lot that comes with our offense. It was definitely – there was progress made, let me say that, at the wide receiver position with the young kids in this last game. And we need it.
Rob?
Each week it seems like you've been asked about the passing game and trying to connect on the big ones. But you've talked about Tanner and Joel and their want-to and their care and their desire in practice to get it right. Are you seeing in practice the connections, the success rate that you want to see there, and it's just transferring over to the game? Or is it in practice some of the struggles that you have during the game?
Well, we always have our struggles in practice, but I really see, the progress throughout the week, and a lot of times, as you know, we run a split practice, and it would probably be a really better question for Andy because I'm with the defense so much, and I don't see a lot of their practice. But I know when we come together and I come back and watch it on tape, which I do, every day, it looks good to me. But I don't get to see every second of every practice. Neither team threw the ball real well last week. It was really windy. Those are not excuses. But I feel like, put it this way, when the ball goes up in the air and I see a guy running wide open down the field, I'm feeling pretty good that we're going to get in the right spot to be able to catch it. And sometimes it's worked out and sometimes it hasn't.
Jeff?
Gary, back to the defense for a second. I'm sure a lot of people in this room had questions about, especially your front seven, given all you lost. I'm just curious, at what point did the coaching staff, as the season developed, have a feel for, even though the season's not over yet, that the defense would be pretty stout and be able to do some things that maybe not everyone anticipated?
I would probably, myself, the Maryland game was a great opportunity for us to play against a very talented group, and we walked out of that and played very well. So, if it was over today, I would say that was the turning point, that I felt that, hey, these guys are gaining some momentum and really moving forward. And then that carried on to this week. So, again, we'll see what happens as we move forward. But so the best thing about that defense is it's, there's some very talented players on there, and there's some very youthful players, which we said very many times. But it's kind of the unsung hero, if you will. One guy makes a play this week, then the next guy makes a play the next week, and there's a lot of guys that are stepping up and a lot of pieces to the puzzle. So they got a chance to be special. So hopefully we can help them get there, and then they'll go get themselves there as we move through these next few games.
Andy?
Gary, is it unusual for teams? Is it your experience that you have two guys who've been coordinators of special teams? I'm curious how that relationship, having both Bill and Todd have worked together doing this, and what their chemistry is like.
Yeah, I did not really truly believe in that initially, and then when we came to Wisconsin and we kind of put the staff together, you look at what we do on offense, and the tight end coach is so involved in the offensive system, which you all know as well as I. You look at us on the defensive side, and when you're coaching the odd front, you'd love to have 5 assistant coaches on the defensive side of the football, where you don't get those 5. So they've got 4 assistants. Offense has 5 assistants, which offensive needs them all, and then defense has the 4 assistants, and a GA, or for instance, they have to deal with me this year coaching the B backers, so it makes it 5 over there. Bill has to coach the safeties, and he's in charge of the F linebackers also. And that's a lot to handle 4 special teams and handle those duties. It's a lot for our tight end coach in this offense to handle the tight ends and then be involved with all the special teams duties. So splitting in half seemed natural. They both were very excited about the opportunity because they work well together, number one. And number two, it's I'm not going to say half the workload like they're afraid of the work, but it lets them be better at their job because they can manage it and handle it.
Anything else for Coach?
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Go
Coach.
Badgers on Wisconsin.